Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Tribe Redefine annual Girls Night In. Tonight, we are talking about committing to you on our coaching journey. My name is Pamela Bussarello. I am the founding coach of Tribe Redefine. And if you were invited in here by me, then you know my backstory a little bit. If you were invited in here by somebody else, then maybe you're hearing this for the first time. And there are quite a few coaches on this team that share similar impetuses into joining this business, where we found a place for ourselves and a place for our health in a space in which the world around us wasn't making room for that. In the world of crazy mom life, in the world of working, in the world of wifing and being a daughter, being a sister, and being a friend, sometimes it's really just hard to be yourself. And I talk about this on my social media a lot, so it's not going to be, any brand new information, but hopefully I can put some sort of a spin on this that allows you to see the true connection between my desire to be me first and foremost and how that affects the rest of my life and how coaching gives me the avenue to do that. So that's my goals. And I'll share just a touch as to what coaching actually looks like, so you can get that full picture as best as you can. So my story really begins, I guess, 7 years ago when I first realized I had an autoimmune disease. It was not at all diagnosed at the time, but I had all these strange symptoms. And the irony is that I'm in a flare-up right now, something that hasn't happened to me in almost a couple of years. So it's kind of bringing me back. The nostalgia is there, the stress is there, the unknown is there. But the difference now is that I have a real concept of what I can and cannot control in my life, where 7 years ago, I did not. I was struggling with an 11-month-old who I was forced to wean from nursing because I was hospitalized for a long period of time. I had all these unknown symptoms, yet I had appendicitis where none of these other strange symptoms should have been coming into play. But my doctors were poo-pooing them or shushing them away or explaining them as something that really didn't make much sense to me. I listened to them because I was bedridden and I was tired and I needed to get this appendix out and get home to my daughter. But I really always felt like there was something more to it. And sure enough, a few months later, when she was just 1.5, I had mastitis and again had these same very strange symptoms. And then when I was pregnant with my son, who's 6 years old, I developed strep throat, and my strep throat lasted for 3 weeks. And again, I developed these very strange symptoms and continue that pattern until after Paxton was born. And I had probably my most unhealthy summer of my life. I was underweight from chronic gastritis that allowed me to get to a place practically of an eating disorder because I was so malnourished from having this nonstop stomach bug that the idea of food just left me. And I completely shunned eating of any kind because I thought it would make me sick. I shunned medication because I wanted to continue to breastfeed. I shunned just about everything that was going to be healthy for me because I saw the idea of breastfeeding as being the most important thing. And I really let my health deteriorate. And it was a very, very uncomfortable summer, a very unhappy summer, and a very scary summer. And still, I had no diagnosis until the end of that year, or the end of that summer in August. I recall driving myself to a kidney doctor by a recommendation of a pediatrician of all people, someone in our family who I was just at a dinner party one night sharing all of my stresses with and my road for the past 2.5 years of these strange episodes and this non-diagnosis from doctors across the gamut. And he said, I want you to see a kidney doctor and I want you to look for one of these two diseases. And he wrote them down. And as soon as I walked into the kidney doctor, she looked at me and she said, it's a pretty clear-cut case of IgA nephropathy. And that was the number one thing that my pediatrician had written on his list. And I sat there and I cried and I was just so grateful to have answers after years of not really knowing what was going on with me and doctors thinking that I was crazy, that I was making this up, that there's no way you get a rash and, bloody urine, pardon me, when you have strep throat. Like none of that made sense, but it was happening to me and I charted it and I kept track of it and I became an advocate for myself without even realizing that's what I was doing. Fast forward a year later, I had started a vegetarian diet, a very unhealthy one, a non-researched one, because that was what my then nephrologist suggested as a good fix for IgA nephropathy without having to go on steroids. I still wanted to nurse Paxton. I still wanted to have another baby, and being on steroids routinely was not going to help that. So I continued to be pretty malnourished because I was pretty much drinking kale smoothies all day, not including protein of any kind, because IgA kind of is funky with protein. So I just kind of banned it from my diet. Not a good choice. But I was making better decisions. I was trying to become aware. And it was when I was pregnant with Kellen, I was craving chicken. I picked up some Chick-fil-A and I felt good. And I was like, I really need to realize that my diet and my health and the health of my kids, they're all related, but it's paying attention to what I need and what I want that's most important. And when I did that and I dialed into that, and I didn't just take one article's research, and I didn't just take what one doctor told me, and I didn't just take what's the good thing to do for mom, but I took it all into account and weighed it under the scale of what's good for me, that I started to find some real sense of balance and started to find some real sense of control over my health. And after Kellen was born and he experienced a real traumatic in uterine experience with his own health issues, which I've talked about before, and that's a different call for a different night, that really gave me an understanding of our health is so out of our control, yet so in our control. And when possible, to take control and to be proactive is so much more important and so much more doable in this society when we can be educated and we can be advocates for ourselves, than it is to just sit back and wait and just whatever happens, happens. As Kellen was growing inside of me, I couldn't do much beyond the regular prenatal routine, but I could do what I could for myself to keep myself pumping and my heart running, and fitness and eating well were the best things for me. And so after he was born, when I joined a challenge group just for the sole purpose of losing the baby weight, I actually found what was missing in my health journey. I found real physical balance. I found real mental clarity, and I found real knowledge of nutrition in a way that worked. I stopped getting chronic migraines. I stopped getting chronic IBS, and my autoimmune disease really went into remission. I went from having to see my nephrologist every 3 months to having to go every 6 months, and now I'm a yearly checkup. When I have a flare-up like this, I have to pop into his office, get some blood work done just to check it off, and so he can chart it. But otherwise, I'm almost a non-patient anymore, and I attribute that completely to health and fitness. And without making the decision to be a coach, regardless of anybody else I helped, I know for a fact this would have been another fad for me. This would have been another trial. This would have been like my year as a vegetarian, just giving it a try, but with no one else holding me accountable. And that's what is so beautiful about this as a commitment to you. You're committing to your own health journey, to staying healthy, to staying on top of fitness and nutrition, to understanding new data and research, because it's cultivated for you and curated for you by one of the top companies in the world in this space, but also doing so alongside other people with the exact same goal. So it's a commitment to you in a community, and that's what was missing. Before I had that commitment to myself, I figured that out a couple years ago, but I didn't have others surrounding me, making me feel like what I was doing mattered, making me feel like what I was doing could become something more, like what I was doing was legitimate, and it just wasn't a drop in the bucket that happened to stick and like made a ripple for me alone, but I was seeing the ripple for others, and it legitimizes it, and it makes it feel so much more worthwhile and bigger than me. Even though it's a commitment to me, it's bigger than me. And it's an incredible thing. So what do I do as a coach that keeps that commitment to me? I show up every day, except when I'm on my deathbed, like I was the last 2 days. But I show up every day in my challenge groups. I show up every day for my team. But first and foremost, I show up for me. I wake up in the morning. I drink my pre-workout. I do my workout. I make my shake. And I do that every single day. And in between, I'm listening to personal development and growing my mind. I'm getting nutrition certifications and reading the latest research on food intolerance and sensitivities and understanding macronutrient balance, and becoming even more aware of what I put into my body and how to read labels and how to portion food for my children and how to grow them into healthy, aware, knowledgeable beings. It's been such a journey, and it's all because I commit to myself first every single day. And then I go out and I share it with people. I show it to people and I live by example. And I have people who reach out to me because of that. I have people who become healthier because of that. At least once a week, I'm talking to someone who also suffers from IgA nephropathy, a disease I didn't even know existed until I was diagnosed with it. And now I've found so many people, mostly ironically in the UK, who seem to suffer from this. Women just like me. When my first nephrologist, after that appointment, after she diagnosed me, was very frank and said she needed me to find somebody else because she had never worked with a patient as young as me with IgA nephropathy, as new as me. She said so many people paid no attention to those symptoms that they come to her when they're already in renal failure and it's already too late and they have all these other things and that's just a part of it. But because I was proactive and I had that inkling of a commitment to myself and being an advocate for my own health, I had that kind of at the forefront. I was able to nip this in the bud and it's become such an amazing experience and I've become so blessed as a result. As a part of this coaching community, by being a coach of one, we have this tribe of women, mostly women, some men, that are doing the same thing. We have stay-at-home moms of 4. We have teaching moms of 2 and 3. We have, single women lawyers. We have moms of grown children. We have moms of new babies. We have women across the country. We have women up in Canada. We have customers out in the UK, people who are just looking to be their best selves. And if others join, that's wonderful. And if they don't join, that's okay too, because our commitment is always to be a coach of one. And most days that coach is ourselves. When this is a journey for you, when you decide to join, which I have a feeling you're going to, but that's just me. When you join and you become a part of this tribe, not only do you get that community to lift you up, but you get to be a part of a company that is truly focused on your success. We are given tools regularly that help us run this business, if it's a business you choose to run. If you decide to take your position as a coach of one and share that opportunity with others, to share this path with others, you get handed to you guides to help run fitness groups. You get handed to you meal plans to share with your customers. You get trainings and video resources and Instagram tutorials and anything and everything that you look and see the coach who invited you here, whether that's me or somebody else, or who shared this link with you, what you see us doing on social media and you say, there's no way I can do that. We couldn't either. We didn't make this up. We were taught, we learned, we use the resources that are granted to us. None of this is rocket science. It's just showing up for yourself, committing to yourself, and letting other people see that that's what you're doing. It's an amazing gift. It's been a true journey for me. And I can say that though I've been sick for a couple of days, I've had such support from the women in this tribe throughout this process, and also the quickest recovery that I've had in an IgA flare-up ever. Because I've created such a strong, healthy foundation. This is a condition I'm going to live with forever. It's not something I can beat, but it's something that I can regulate. And before my 3-year journey, I was having flare-ups every couple of months. It started out 8 months apart and it kept shrinking. And it was about 4 months apart before that every 4 or so months, I'd have a pretty big flare-up. And this is the first one in 3 years. So I'm pretty pumped with that. I'm not saying this cures everything, but it's working for me, and perhaps it's exactly what can work for you. If you have questions and if you'd like to know more, we've got plenty of resources. I really just wanted to focus on that side of things tonight. If you want to know how to sign up, if you want to know what it looks like as a coach, what your monthly requirements are, first off, I'll say none, because we don't host any products in our house. Everything is if your customer wants it, then reach out to me or reach out to the customer or the coach who brought you into this video, and we are happy to answer any of those questions. And if I'm not the one that brought you in, or if I am, a one-on-one call is always an awesome option, and I'm open to those at any time. So you can message me and we can get on the phone and we can talk your way through this process and how Tribe Redefine can become the home for you as you commit to yourself. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. I love you all. I'm going to stop the recording now.